Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Developing the Leader Within podcast. I'm Enrique, and today I have with me Sam P. Lark Jr. I've been connected with this brother for a little bit now, followed his journey, and I'm so excited to have you today, Sam, not only because you're a military spouse, but because I've seen what you've done with the power of networking. And today, folks, we'll be talking about leadership and networking. So, Sam, thank you for being with us today.
My pleasure, Enrique. Thank you for having me.
So let's start a little bit about the history of Sam and what you're doing and what you're involved with.
So, history of Sam. I love public speaking, and it's something that I've come across at 10 years old, right? I was really a shy kid and didn't really have a whole lot of confidence. But thankfully, I had people in my life that saw something in me that I didn't really know was there. And they began to encourage me to tap into it. So since then, public speaking has really been a really big piece of my life and has helped me get to where I am in my career. So currently, I work for a company, cybersecurity company here in Austin, Texas, by the name of CellPoint, and they help with identity security. But prior to that, I was with GoDaddy, who was actually purchased the company I worked for called Main Street Hub, and they dealt with social media marketing. And the cool thing there was I learned how to use social media to connect with people and in order to actually become noticed. And back in 2016, using Twitter, I was able to strategically get on their radar and they noticed me, brought me in for the interview, and I got the job. They actually wrote an article about how I used Twitter to get their attention to get hired. So pretty much now going on the two things, social media and building relationships along with my public speaking, I encourage people to continue to just network, use social media to build relationships to the point where not only that you know people, but they know you well enough to adequately recommend you when opportunities arise, whatsoever those may be.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I remember seeing those notifications of you getting hired with GoDaddy, the initial Twitter
Mhm.
engagement and how you use that social media. The company I currently work with today came about LinkedIn, right? So
Mhm.
didn't know me. They got my resume, I applied, but they surely went right to social
Mhm.
media and to verify who they were considering to bring on. And thankfully enough, I got employed or hired with them through those means. So, you know, networking, and we'll be talking about that today. Networking, the importance of networking, and how it relates to leadership. But there are so many possibilities that can come by way of not only the social media aspect, but the networking aspect, which is what we're going to focus on today. So, tell us a little bit about your definition of networking.
Well, the cool thing is, I didn't come up with it. It's kind of like why recreate the wheel, but I heard um, an explanation of it. We've heard the saying, it's not what you know, but it's who you know when it comes to advancing yourself.
Right.
I've heard in addition to that, it's not what you know, it's not even who you know, but it's who knows you. And that pretty much goes off of what I was saying earlier. It's more important than just take LinkedIn, for example, getting connections and you knowing a lot of people and you being connected to a lot of people. But if these people don't know you well enough, they don't know your character, they don't know who you are, what you stand for, and how to speak to your multifaceted skill set, that connection may not be as beneficial in advancing your career or whatever your agenda may be, your goal. So, networking for me is not necessarily just a one way, but it's two way. It's getting to know people and also seeing how you can benefit them and then allowing them to get to know you and then seeing if they can, of course, help you as well. So, it's a two-way street.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as you're talking, I'm envisioning, a person being a light bulb, right? You
Mhm,
full potential, right? You put a stamp on there that says 60 watts. That's the potential. You plug it in, that's fine. It's
mhm,
connected to a network of electrical wires and circuits and switches, but there's a person that has to initiate that current. They have to flip the switch in
mhm.
order for you to shine, right? To be able to do what you was made to do. And that's where I see that all play. So people that are having a hard time kind of picturing that, that's what it looks like. Uh, you can have all the potential in the world. You have to be connected to a network. And that's kind of like who you know, but then who knows you, to flip you on and say, boom, you're active. Let's go. I know what you're capable of. And we're going to
Right.
enact that. And that's beautiful. Earlier I was telling you my definition of networking, which is nothing but, for me, a process by which people are connected, but for the benefit of extending
Mhm.
your capabilities,
Right.
extending your offering, extending what you can do, because you just never know who is going to come up uh, against somebody else and say, "Hey, I need this," and then they, boom, I know so
Think
and
of
so,
you.
I know Sam, I know Enrique, I know such and such that can do that. Let me get you guys together. So, and that's the beauty of it. So, in terms of networking, which is, I want to focus on the leadership aspect, because I
Mhm.
told you earlier, there is an ability a leader has that sometimes is shut off because they got the job. And when they get into position, they forget that everybody else is still trying to, fight over the crumbs to get somewhere.
Yeah.
And networking, to me, is one of the keys that leaders have for their own folks,
Mhm.
because I have seen organizations slim down. The
Oh
leader
yeah.
will
All the
remain in
time.
right. The leader will remain in position, and then the workers have to go find another job.
Right.
Wouldn't it be great if a leader would say, "You know what? This is coming down the pipe. Let me go and reach out to so and so
Mhm.
for so and so, because I know they're gonna come up needing a job, and if they could just, boom, laterally transfer,
That would be nice.
that would be so." How do you see leaders employing networking for the benefit of their workers?
Oh man. It's I think a twofold
Mm,
answer to that. It can be while you're in your current role, because it amazes me sometimes in some big global organizations where people are just not connected to each other and you work in the same company. My biggest thing, and I've always attempted to do this, was to connect with so many different ones, no matter where they are geographically, what department, it didn't matter. And get to learn about them, like I was saying earlier, and have them get to learn about me, because you never know how that can help. If you're a leader, your people that report to you later on down the line. So you could say, hey, I know this person in this other department. You may not necessarily think that you'll be a good fit, but I think this could be a different transition for you. Let me introduce you. And also it can keep you abreast to other recs, job openings in other departments that otherwise you would not be privy to. So that's one. So networking within your own organization. And
love
then
that.
two, networking outside your organization, it helps with, if you're in the same industry, give you more industry knowledge, helps you to become a better professional in your chosen field. But then also, just like you were saying, Enrique, if there's some downsizing, layoffs, then you have other opportunities to reach outside of your company if you're a leader that leads with an empathy to really proactively help your, unfortunately, people that have actually ended up being laid off. And I pretty much go based on a quote that I love to recite. It's from Zig Ziglar. He's one of my favorite public speakers. He's passed away, but he said, "You can have everything in life you want if you'll just help enough other people get what they want." So the one word that stands out for me is enough. You can't measure enough. So therefore,
Right.
I just have to do good and more good and more good. And then down the line, my reward will take care of itself. But my focus is just to keep helping more and more people. So hopefully, if leaders today have that same kind of mindset, I think a lot of people will be much better off and will be more connected on a purposeful type connection.
Yeah, I love that because I also am fond of that quote.
Mhm,
I try to live it daily, and so one thing you mentioned was the internal networking that we didn't bring up. So thank you for bringing that up. Um, Internal changes and internal switches within the organization where you don't have to go outside,
mhm.
and that type. I seldom see that type. If I don't see hardly the other type, I really don't see that type
Right.
where you strategize, you use your leadership position to strategize for the benefit of your teammate
Mhm.
in areas that are needed within the company. Because
Right.
how great would that be, that you could stay? A lot of people like stability. You could stay at the
Mhm.
same company, don't have to go out and go get another job,
Right.
but can repurpose, right, and use the tools that you already have, because we're so multifaceted. I mean,
True.
I think about myself, because I don't want to, speak about anybody else.
Mhm.
Um, a minister, a gardener, a musician, an artist, carpenter. I mean, it's just so many things that I
Mhm.
do, that at any given point I can enact that, that, I guess,
You can
gift.
make a shift into
Yeah,
that
and
skill
make a
set.
shift and use it. And so that's great. I love that you brought that up. So leaders that are out there, um, that don't know how to network,
Mhm.
because some people got jobs purely by an application they submitted,
Right.
and they qualified, right? So they
Mhm.
didn't have to network. But people that are in leadership positions that don't know how to network, how can they start to dabble in that arena without getting trampled, right? Because it's scary sometimes.
Just be purposeful, genuine. People do not like inauthentic people, right? Don't reach out having an agenda. Just
Mm.
honestly reach out to be interested in people. Dale Carnegie, in his book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, said to be interesting, be interested. I think the down to the nitty gritty of networking, it's all about showing your interest in the other person. Because we've heard it said before, you go to a networking event and it seems like it's a crowd of people around this one person and everybody wants to talk to that person. Why do they want to talk to that person? But it's and when you get into the crowd, you realize that person's really not doing a whole lot of talking. They're listening to other people. They're making whomever they're engaged at that moment feel as if they're the most important person in that room. So people that really listen, they're known as the greatest conversationalists, I believe, because they know how to bring some things out of another person. They know how to make that person feel very special and they're present. So for leaders that are not used to networking, honestly, it's just connecting with people on a human, authentic level, being interested in them and seeing what they have going on and how you can make a bond. Don't even think about what you can get out of it, but more so think of what you can give to the person.
Yeah, that approach is by far the most effective in any relationship, because it's the old saying of people
Mhm,
don't care, to how much
mhm,
they just want to know how much you care.
mhm,
And in a conversation, it's not so much what you can give to them, but how you make them feel that
mhm.
they're valued, right? That what they
Yeah.
say and have to say is as or even more important
Mhm.
than what you have to say.
Right.
And I could, when you talk, I see all these scenarios go in my head, and I'm like, yep, that's exactly. When I go in a room, most people that are influential are not yapping all the time.
Mhm,
They're listening. Their eye contact and their intent in what the other person is saying,
mhm.
and that really is uh, the key to building relationships. So great, that's a good one. Um, when I get in comfortable and I'm letting people talk and setting the scene,
Mhm.
um, what has been the greatest value you have seen in your networking approaches?
I believe it just goes back to what I said earlier, really, just focusing on the other person, really being present. That's so important because let's think about the networking event. It could be hundred of people there or hundreds. There's really, in my mind, no way in the world you could talk to all those people, right?
Right.
So you may have a list of people that you may want to talk to, but whomever you're engaged with at that moment, be present. Just 100% present. Don't be distracted by anyone else. Give that person your full undivided attention. And that for me has really caused me to go a lot further with my relationships with people because they know whenever I'm interacting with them, like you said, they matter. It's not necessarily what I say, but it's how I make them feel. They've been heard. They've been felt like they are significant. You know, if I'm talking to you and you're looking around at other people strategizing who you're going to talk to next, then I'm like, then you know, this person is really not into what I'm saying, right?
Right.
They don't really want to connect with me. So for me, being present is very important, and it's going to really help make those more significant, deeper relationships happen.
Yeah, I believe that wholeheartedly. No relationship that is sidebarred for something else see feels like they're the most important thing, right? It happens to me if I'm talking with my wife and then all of a sudden a buzz or a phone or this or that and the other, and I'm looking over there. There's just no way that I'm making her feel like she's the most important thing at that moment, right? So
Right.
great point, and one for leaders to uh, consider even on your day to day, right? You're going to be
Mm.
talking to so many different people.
Right.
And a lot of people don't understand that you're networking with your own team. And if
Mhm.
you can't network with your team, uh, when because you might be on the cutting end of
That's
that
true.
cut, right? You might be the one getting cut, and then you're gonna need that network to be enacted to help you out. That network can start with your people. And if it
True.
starts with your people, they may know somebody. It's happened to me.
Mhm.
Hey, I was in a position not directly over anyone. I was working for a CEO directly.
Mhm.
But my networking with them throughout the year allowed them to see a version of me that they would not normally see.
Mhm.
And they all banded, hey, here's this, here's that. Go talk to this person, go talk to that person.
Nice.
None of it panned out for me, but just the fact that they were great enough
Mhm.
to pass me that information meant that I had worked up a network among the people that I worked with. So that was great. Now, there are limitations to everything we do, right? There's limitations also to networking. When can networking go too far? Because it can.
Honestly, I think when a person is just all consumed about what they want to do for themselves. For instance, you may have experienced this on LinkedIn. Someone reaches out, the initial outreach, that LinkedIn connection request. It's 4 paragraphs and it's all about what
Ooh,
they're doing and potentially what they can do for you. It's a sales pitch.
yep.
That for me, it rubs me the wrong way because number one, depending on what's in that content of that sales pitch, lets me know, okay, you didn't take any look at my profile. You don't
Right.
know me. You don't know if I need these things, right? For me, it's building a relationship, is really getting to know me. And then if the subject arises where you could fit in some of your offerings, then okay, we can have that conversation, but first get to know me. So I think the limits to networking are the speed of it, right? Networking takes time. It's building a relationship. It's just as if we were thinking about relationships that people have when they're dating or they're married. It takes time,
Right.
right? Everybody has a different timeline of when they date and then go into marriage and so have you. Everybody's different. That's another thing. Everybody's different. So realizing it takes time to get to know someone, and then to also realize it's not about you. Networking, honestly, at the end of the day, is not about you. It's what you could do for the other person. So if both people that are involved in this relationship of networking have that mindset, it's not about me, it's about this other person, that relationship will be a lot more fruitful and purposeful, and I believe even authentic.
Yeah, I completely agree. That truly is the limit, and will undoubtedly cut cut you quick, right? Because this
Yeah.
week alone, I've gotten a ton of, "Hey, Enrique, would love to connect with you," and I had okay. I'm like, okay. I look at their background. I say, well, you know
Right.
what? I might not necessarily need that today, but
Hmm.
I don't know when someone will need this person's
Right.
services. And so I say, okay, I'll connect with them.
Hmm.
Boom. I'm like, what in the
Yeah.
world?
Right.
You keep
Right.
scrolling. You like, I don't even know you yet. Not
Right.
like that. And so I can see that to be truth.
Hmm.
Sam, I appreciate you. I've followed you for a little bit. I know what you do. You've definitely done networking on the good side. And so,
Thank you.
I just want to wish you so much blessing and success with your new job and with your future, right? With your
Thank you.
family. Are there is there anything left you would like to say about networking in terms of leadership before we close for the session?
You mentioned it earlier. So many times, some leaders get to the point where whether they get that client or they get that job where they feel like networking is done. I'm done. I'm not going to network anymore. And then when it happens that they need to network again, it's like recreating the wheel. It's a
Right.
struggle, right? I think networking should continue to happen, whether it's online, offline. Always be thinking about how can I build a significant, purposeful relationship where I'm present and I can actually help somebody else out. Because it does go, I think, back to that Zig Ziglar quote: "You can have everything in life you want if you would just help enough other people get what they want."
Amen to that. Well, thank you so much, Sam, for sharing your morning with us, folks. If you're listening, leaders, if you're listening, networking has to be genuine. It has to be with the other person in mind, and it has to continue regardless whether you need it or not, because you
Mhm.
just never know in a leadership position where someone else will need it, and you should be the key to their success through that. Today, I'm wearing purple. I don't know what color it looks like on the video, but it is purple and white in honor of my mom that unfortunately passed on Thursday due to COVID. I want to implore everyone, uh, this stuff is real. Ask me, right? It just happened. So
Mhm.
um, do what you need to do to keep safe. Do what you need to do to keep your family safe, and that's where I'll leave that. Sam, once again, thank you for being with me. For all those listening, as we love to end this show, and success to you.